Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today you join me with the new Land Rover Defender 130. This is the third model in the Defender lineup, and this is Land Rover School Bus, a 3-row 8-seater version of the Defender that doesn't expand on its wheelbase at all. So where people were a little upset that the 9T version and the 110 version really didn't have that representative number for the wheelbase, you're going to be continually upset with the 130. The wheelbase has not changed at all from the 110 version. Really, the big difference is the extension of the back of this product. And when you look at this, it doesn't look really any different from most 3-row SUVs. They need that space to put people in, and you don't actually notice how stark of a change it is unless you compare it right beside a 110, because of course Land Rover Defenders, one of their priorities is off-road capability, and you will be sacrificing some of that dexterity off-road if you were to own this product over the 110, but I hardly imagine that is the end of the world for people looking to buy a 130 or a 110. But we do need to talk about what are the big changes with the 130. So that 3-row setup, it really is 8 individual seats. Each of them collapses, has its own headrest, and you can fold all of them down, not totally flat, and the third and second row don't line up exactly. So if you are intending to use your 130 like a van, you're going to have to be a little bit creative on how you load things in here. And the second row doesn't have the seat bases that fold up like they do in the 110, so just be conscious of that. So in the folded down configuration of the 130, not perfect, but good enough. But what is actually surprising about the 130 is that as someone my height, 6'4", I can sit in the third row of seating, given that the second row of seats aren't all the way back, and be pretty happy back there. You have heated seats back there, padded armrests, proper venting, and your own separate glass sunroof. That's quite impressive. And for the second row, if I will slide the seats all the way back, I can very happily, again, sit behind myself. The Defender has so much headroom and enough space around the elbows that it's got everything a tall guy needs in each 3 rows. Just don't be loading this up with 8 6-footers, then it might be a little bit of a challenge. But I'll say to you, if I needed to do a considerable amount of time in any third row of any vehicle, I think the 130 might be it. I will say I'm perhaps a little bit surprised that the second row cluster with the climate control and all that doesn't have any USB plugins of any kind. If you're using this as a family SUV and carrying people about, people want to charge things up. With the third row of seating up, you are able to quite comfortably throw in a large carry-on suitcase. Here, this isn't a carry-on suitcase. This is what I put away in stowage. But the space that you have here, even though it isn't all that large, is very typical of what you would see in a 3-row SUV. Looking down to the back of this school bus, there's plenty of glass, visibility is great. But what Land Rover has really done here is introduce a new vehicle that can have a little more overlap with its competition. Maybe you were looking at an X5 or an X7 from BMW, but also considering a Defender 110. Now, you couldn't go with the 110 if you needed those extra seats, so maybe the Defender was put on the bottom of the list for you, but now we have the 130. It can now be up in consideration with the Mercedes GLE and GLS and all of those other common rivals. So the practicality and the extra space in the 130 is certainly enough for it to be considered up against its other European rivals and American rivals as well. What you get in the Defender is a personality that you won't find in any of its rivals. Of course, we know by now what the Defender is trying to do. It is trying to be as off-road capable as possible without really compromising on-road dynamics. But what that means is if you are to drive this Defender in the same spirit that you would a BMW X5, let's say, there's a lot of differentiating factors that you might or might not like. So if you're quite an erratic driver in something like an X5, you dart the wheel, it turns, ride is supple, it's sharp, it's quick. With this, there's a pillowy nature to the ride, and if you turn the wheel, you find that you feel like the base of the car is turning before the top of the car, and it leans a lot into hard corners. For the past 10-15 years, manufacturers have been trying to make their SUVs feel like sports sedans, and perhaps that wasn't all that necessary. In this, it feels like an SUV of old, and that is quite charming. If you're a calm, relaxed, and gentle driver, the Defender is a lovely thing to operate, and even on highway drives as well. The ride quality is very good. Sound isolation is fantastic, even given the boxier shape and the roof rails. Yes, you'll hear some wind catching around, but it's significantly less than what I was anticipating my experience would be behind the wheel of the Defender. For now, the 130 only comes with one engine choice, the mild hybrid 6-cylinder P400. It has 395 horsepower, 550 pound-feet of torque, and the integration with this 8-speed automatic transmission is so smooth. In the 1,500 kilometers I have been driving this, I haven't noticed any hard or sharp gear changes. It all just vanishes quite simply and calmly into the background. Not everything is perfect. I'm not a fan of the throttle calibration. I think at the top of the pedal, it's just a bit too much effort for too little of response. I've tried it in the different driving modes, so you don't have a dynamic mode, so to say, with the Defender, but you do have the ability to knock the transmission lever into S mode, which helps a bit, but I find what it's doing more is just using one gear lower than normal, as opposed to having a sharper response to the throttle. Paired that up with the automatic brake hold, I found that getting off of the line, you are either doing it too slowly or accelerating a bit too quickly, letting off of the throttle, so it was a little bit of a jerky experience. Like I said earlier, if you're gentle and calm and you experience this car for as long as I have, you get used to it, it's no problem. But it's just something you might see as laggy. The interior is just tremendous. The amount of time that I've spent with this product, I'm all for it. I love the empty spaces in the dashboard and here under the center console. The application of all the materials is fantastic. Even if we have hard plastic here, I don't really care, because look at the exposed screws and the exterior paint finding its way here on the inside with the door frame. Soft leather where you would rest your elbows up here, down here, where my knees are rubbing up against. With the cup holders, you have this little tray that can fit on top and you can take off, which does have a space below here in the cavity, but I actually liked putting it up here, and it's grippy enough that even on some fast corners that I've taken or big bouts of acceleration and braking, it stayed firm. My glasses that are on top have stayed in place too, so it's a good way to maximize some space, especially as you don't have a sunglass compartment up here in the Defender, surprisingly. And this has got to be one of my favorite steering wheels in the business now. It's beautifully wrapped, thick but not too thick. I like the multi-function buttons here on the left-hand side that change depending on which mode you're in, and how we have the powder-coated metal that's cold in the morning. It's just perfect to hold on to for a long drive. And the seats themselves, at first I worried that I wouldn't find them as comfortable as I'd hope, as there's no underleg extension, but in one day I did 9 hours worth of driving, and I had no complaints with my time behind the wheel. There's actually a few little small details in the Defender that I quite like. First off, I like that when you are driving at night, you can turn the center screen off entirely. Not that you just turn it off and it's backlit. It's completely black, nothing coming through. That's great for just keeping your eyes focused on the road. And another thing I like with the digital rear view camera, when you have those idiots using high beams at night behind you and you get that blinding, horrible look in your rear view mirror, you just flip this on, and even if they have their high beams on, it doesn't distract you. nearly as much, so that's great. And one nice final detail is I really like how with your heated and vented seats you can choose to, in the touchscreen, have them on your butt, on your back, or both. Maybe one last quick thing to say in this review: all of the accessories that you would want with your 110 you can option with the 130, and we don't have the Alpine glass, the little corner edge glass in this product as we have seen in the 110, and this is the first edition version that I'm driving, the absolute top of the line, even with a fridge in the center console. So that about does it for my review. The Defender 130, if you're looking at other premium 3-row SUVs, this is not only a vehicle that should be on your list, but perhaps right at the top as well. I am very impressed by it. And if you need something that has a little bit more of off-road capability, you want something with real personality, and the looks appeal to you, don't think you can go wrong with this product, honestly. I really don't think so. Now, I'd like to provide a little more context as to the circumstances I was able to test out this Defender 130. I flew off to Toronto to drive the Defender 130 down to New York, where the Defender service events were occurring with Destination Defender. Destination Defender was essentially a community event. People with new and old Defenders all come together, and it was just a nice outdoor show with a few other activities going on. But the Defender Service Awards were non-profits that had submitted videos to Jaguar Land Rover, and the public voted on them, and the winners in 5 categories took home a new Defender 130 and $25,000. I'm going to link to the Destination Defender page where you can read more about this charity event, as it is only the second time the Jaguar Land Rover of North America has been able to put it on, and I really hope it's something that does carry on into the future. It was a very rewarding experience, an enlightening experience, and of course I'm immensely grateful that Land Rover would send me down there so that I could spend an extended period of time with this product and give you my honest thoughts towards it. So thank you very much for taking the time to watching this video, and I hope to see you again on the channel soon.